Hello, dear students. Today we are going to study about nutrition in plants. Dear students, in last session we studied about autotrophic nutrition and now we are going to study about heterotrophic nutrition in session 2. Dear students, when we say heterotrophic nutrition, that means that plants are obtaining food from other plant or other animal. So, dear students, here these plants are not able to do photosynthesis or they are having some other problems like nutrient deficiency. Now, dear students, this heterotrophic nutrition, it is having few types. The first type is called as parasitic. Second type is saprotrophic. Then the third type is insectivorous. And the fourth type is symbiotic plants. Now, dear students, we will study about parasitic plants. Here, you can see that suppose this is a big tree present in a forest. And now, dear students, this tree is having one climber around it which is going to come to it and is going to climb on it. That time, this climber it's going to form some special roots and it will enter into the stem of this big plant. Now, dear students, this climber it is also having leaves and it is having a weak stem, but with the help of its roots it's able to climb up on this big tree. This big tree is called as host and this climber is called as parasite. Dear students, this parasite climber, it's forming roots and entering into the stem of this host. And this host is doing photosynthesis to make its food. And this climber plant is going to absorb the food from its special roots penetrated in the host stem. So, dear students, these parasites are at benefit and this host plant, it is at harm. So, these are the parasitic plants. Dear students, we will understand about the parasitic plants in detail like this. Parasitic plants are partially or completely dependent on another plants. They develop special roots to absorb food from another plant. The example of parasitic plants are Cuscuta and Mistletoe. Now, dear students, let's move towards the next type. Next type is saprophytic plants doing saprophytic nutrition. Dear students, these plants are completely leafless plants, means they are not having leaves at all. Also, their roots contain fungi. These plants grow in deep shade. Now, dear students, here you can consider one big banyan tree present over here in a forest area. It will be having its prop roots everywhere and it's going to grow over a large area. And because of that, what happens? Below this plant, there is completely shady environment and photosynthesis cannot be done by the plants which are present below this banyan tree. So that time, these plants also develop special roots which are reaching over the soil to the fallen leaves. These fallen leaves, when they start decaying, that time these roots they are absorbing the food material from these dead plant parts. And dear students, these roots they are having association with fungi. They will be having roots with fungi. So this fungi is going to absorb food material for these plants. So dear students, you have studied about the saprophytic plants too. Now dear students, we will study about the next type of plant. But before that, don't forget to write the names of saprophytic plants. They are Indian piper and coral root. Now the next type, that is insectivorous plants. Dear students, you understand very nicely insects. These are the small organisms. Now, there are certain plants present in the forest or in desert area where there is very less quantity of nutrients is present in the soil, and because of that, to get proper nutrients, these plants need to consume animals. So dear students, these insectivorous plants have developed certain structures on their body that they can trap and they can consume these animals. So dear students, the plants who are going to trap and consume other animals like insects, they are called as insectivorous plants. An example of these insectivorous plants are Venus flytrap and Drosera. Now, students, we are going towards the next type. The next type is symbiotic plants. Here, when we are talking about symbiotic plants, we are talking about the association. Here, one plant will be in association with other organism. That time, these both the plants or both the organism are going to get benefited. Here, this type of plant is called as symbiotic and the process is called as symbiosis. Now, dear student, here we are having example lichens. These lichens are made up from the algae and fungi. These two come together and form association and live together. These lichens mostly grow into the pollution-free environment. They take time to grow, but when they grow, they live for a very long. So these are the few points to remember about lichens. Lichens are made up from fungi and algae and they mostly grow in pollution-free area. They are symbiotic means in association with each other and this process is called as symbiosis. Dear students, here we have studied about the four different types of heterotrophic nutrition. Now let's have some examples of all these four types. The first example here is of parasitic plants, that is Cascuta. Here you can see a green colored stem and on that stem this yellow flowered plant is growing and it's going to enter its roots, special roots that are going to absorb food from this green plant. Now this green plant is called as host. Now, dear students, next example is of insectivorous plants. It's here. Here we are having this Venus flytrap in which these Venus plants, they have developed some trap-like structures on their body parts. Here, when flies are coming because of their bright colors and their smell, and they will enter into this trap, immediately Venus flytrap will close and they will just consume those flies. So, in this way, aren't these very dangerous plants? Now, dear students, we are having next example of saprotrophic. Now, these are having roots associated with fungus and they will absorb the food material from dead and decaying plant material. So the example is Indian piper. And finally, we have reached to the symbiotic lichens. These lichens are two organisms that have come together and formed one organism called as lichen. They are growing in pollution-free area and they live for a long. Now, dear students, we will move ahead after this example towards one important point. When we are studying about the nutrition of plants, we must know or we already know that plants absorb the nutrition from soil and because of this, sometimes soil gets deficiency of the nutrients. So here, when deficiency of the nutrients, those are important for plant is taking place, that time it is called as depletion of these nutrients in soil. Now, dear students, which are the nutrients? Those are important for the plants. Here, nitrogen, potassium, along with sulfur and phosphorus are the important nutrients for the plants. Now, how to get these nutrients back into soil? That is the question. So, dear students, we are having certain methods. We have manures and fertilizers which can give back soil the nitrogen along with potassium and phosphorus. So, we need to use manures and fertilizers when we are doing farming or cultivating crops in our fields. Dear students, along with these manures and fertilizers, a particular type of plant that is called as leguminous plants is going to help in the replenishment of nitrogen. What does it means by replenishment, students? Replenishment means adding nitrogen again back to soil. So let's study how these leguminous plants are going to help us. Dear students, what does it mean by nitrogen fixation is first question. When we think about nitrogen fixation, we must know this diagram very nicely. Dear students, you can see here, this is a plant and this plant is having pods on it. When the plants are bearing pods, such plants are called as leguminous plants. Now, these plants are having roots on which there are certain node or knot-like structures. And in these structures, a special bacterium called as rhizobium lives. Now, dear students, here this bacteria is having capacity to convert nitrogen from air to nitrogen in soil. This process of converting air nitrogen into soil nitrogen is called as nitrogen fixation. And this bacterium called as rhizobium helps these leguminous plants to give nitrogen in the soil surrounding them. And in this bacterium gets shelter and food from these leguminous plants. So, dear students, you can here understand that this bacterium and these plants, they both are helping each other. Leguminous plants are getting nitrogen added to soil, and this bacterium, it is getting food and shelter from these leguminous plants. So in this way, these leguminous plants helps us to replenish nitrogen in the soil. So, dear students, along with this point, we have finished our lesson, that is nutrition in plants. Dear students, thank you for being patient.